The C-5 Galaxy, a machine so vast it redefined what flight could mean. The ground trembles before it even moves. This is the Lockheed C-5 Galaxy. A flying warehouse so massive it can swallow tanks, helicopters, and trucks, and still have room for dessert. For more than half a century, this aircraft has been the backbone of American airlift, hauling the impossible to places no one else could reach. Every bolt, every panel, every rivet was designed with one goal: to move what others couldn't even imagine lifting. From the outside, it looks like a sleeping beast. But once awakened, the C-5 becomes a thunderous symbol of human engineering. Today, we're taking you inside this metal giant to see how it kneels, swallows, and flies across oceans with nearly 1 million pounds of metal. Welcome to Mech Vault. And this is the story of the C-5 Galaxy. Born from impossible demands, world's biggest military faced a new challenge: distance, moving tanks and troops across oceans. In the 1960s, the Cold War demanded a new kind of aircraft, one that could fly heavy armor straight from the United States to the front line, no matter where that front line was. The Air Force called it the CXHLS, or Heavy Logistics System. Existing planes like the C-141 simply couldn't do the job. Tanks had to be disassembled, cargo had to be shipped in pieces, slowing down entire military operations. The Air Force wanted a single aircraft that could carry everything, whole and ready for combat. Lockheed answered with something the world had never seen: a plane 247 feet long, 65 feet tall, and capable of lifting over 270,000 pounds of cargo. It was the C-5 Galaxy, the first aircraft that could carry 2 battle tanks or the fuselage of another plane inside its belly. Its wingspan alone dwarfed buildings. Engineers joked that if it ever took flight, it might block out the sun. But in 1968, the world witnessed a miracle. When it first flew in 1968, people thought it was a stunt. But the C-5 wasn't built for show. It was built to move war. The monster that kneels. Its most astonishing trick wasn't in the air, it was on the ground. Hydraulics flexing, the massive nose lifting, tanks rolling up ramps, side-by-side shots of nose and tail doors. The C-5's most jaw-dropping trick is its ability to bow. Using its landing gear hydraulics, the entire aircraft kneels forward, lowering the cargo bay from nearly 10 feet down to about 3. It's like a 380-ton creature dropping to one knee so tanks can climb aboard. The whole front of the plane, weighing as much as a loaded semi-truck, pivots upward, exposing a 19-foot wide, 13-foot tall opening. Big enough to drive a bus straight through. Inside, the cargo deck stretches 121 feet long, longer than the Wright brothers' first flight, with thousands Audi-down points to secure everything from jeeps to helicopters. And while most aircraft load from one end, the Galaxy loads from both. Tanks can drive in from the tail and roll out through the nose, a straight-through highway of steel and rivets. Balance of a giant. Loadmasters with tablets, chains clinking, tanks being locked in place. But even a beast like this obeys the laws of balance. The loadmaster, the person in charge of cargo, becomes part mathematician, part magician. They calculate the aircraft's center of gravity within inches. Even a few inches can make the difference between a safe flight and a disaster. A tank pushed too far forward could crush the nose gear, too far back and the aircraft could pitch out of control. Every chain is tightened, every latch locked, every bolt verified. Inside the cargo bay, the hum of hydraulics echoes like a heartbeat. Chains rattle as armored vehicles are secured for flight. Move a 70-ton tank 2 feet too far forward and the nose refuses to lift on takeoff. 2 feet too far back and the pilot loses control mid-flight. That's why every tank, every chain, every gallon of fuel is precisely measured and distributed. Speaking of chains, each Abrams is held down by 40 of them, rated for 25,000 pounds each. Because in turbulence, even gravity can't be trusted. Taking off a mountain. Outside, the air shimmers with heat. Every movement is deliberate, every second counts. Taxiing this beast is like steering a building. The main wheels are more than 100 feet behind the cockpit. As it rolls toward the runway, everything shakes. The flight crew performs hundreds of checks, from fuel systems to engine temperature. The crew lines up on a runway 1.6 miles long. At 120 knots, there's no stopping. At 155 knots, they pray. Then, lift. 4 General Electric engines push out 172,000 pounds of thrust, drinking 400 gallons of fuel per minute. For a few tense seconds, the Galaxy pivots like a seesaw, nose up, tail still on the ground, before the wings finally bite the air. Each takeoff feels like preparing to wake a giant. And then this 720,000-pound monster becomes a bird. Engineering that defies logic. Once airborne, the Galaxy becomes a world of its own, a flying network of systems working in perfect harmony. Dozens of computers monitor every vibration, every pound of pressure. The C-5 shows what genius engineering really means. It carries over 51,000 gallons of fuel across 12 tanks. A complex network of pumps and sensors constantly adjusts fuel levels. Inside cockpit, digital readouts flicker as the flight engineer moves fuel from tank to tank, ensuring perfect stability, shifting thousands of pounds every hour to keep balance. The flight engineer constantly moves fuel between tanks to keep the center of gravity perfect. Too much in the nose and it dives. Too much in the tail and it stalls. And when range isn't enough, the C-5 drinks mid-air, connecting to a KC-135 tanker through a refueling boom, absorbing 6,000 pounds of fuel per minute while cruising at 400 miles per hour. It's a flying city, kept alive by hydraulics running at pressures high enough to cut through steel. Every system on board is redundant: hydraulic, electric, and flight controls. If one fails, another takes over. Even in emergencies, this plane can stay aloft long enough to bring its crew home. Lose one hydraulic system? Still fine. Lose 2? It flies fine. Lose 3? You'll land, but you'll need new underwear. The landing of a Titan. Hours pass in silence. The world begins to reappear through scattered clouds. The crew prepares for the return, one of the hardest tests for an aircraft this size. After hours in the sky, the descent begins. The C-5 doesn't glide. It drops, using a steeper 5-degree glide slope to slow its weight. In the cockpit, the pilots communicate calmly, checking airspeed and weight. The flaps extend, the landing gear lowers, and the sound of rushing wind fills the cabin. At 50 feet above the runway, the pilot flares gently. Then 24 wheels meet the concrete in perfect sync. The nose hangs in the air for a second, then lowers like a bow. Thrust reversers roar forward, flinging debris ahead of the cockpit windows. The brakes absorb energy hot enough to melt aluminum, 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, while giant cooling fans roar for 45 minutes after landing. The Galaxy stops in just 6,000 feet, an impossible feat for something this massive. Legacy in the future. Half a century later, the C-5 still rules the skies it was born to conquer. The legacy of those who dreamed beyond limits. Modern C-5M Super Galaxy, digital cockpit, maintenance crew, soldiers unloading relief supplies. After more than 50 years, the C-5 remains unmatched. 3 times the Air Force has tried to replace it, and 3 times they failed. Instead of retiring it, engineers reinvented it. The new C-5M Super Galaxy features digital flight controls, quieter engines, and greater fuel efficiency. It now flies farther, higher, and with more precision than ever before. The plan is to keep it flying until 2040 and beyond, because nothing else can do what this machine does. It's not just an airplane. It's a symbol of logistics without limits, proof that when size and strength meet precision, the impossible can fly. As the sun sets behind its wings, one truth remains. Giants like these are not just built, they're born from vision. When you see that massive nose tilted skyward, remember, you're looking at more than metal. You're looking at a promise that no distance is too far, no cargo too heavy. The C-5 Galaxy doesn't just move machines, it moves the world. As the sun sets behind its wings, one truth remains. Giants like these are not just built, they're born from vision. If this engineering giant blew your mind, drop a like, subscribe, and tell us which machine you want to see next.